today I am super excited to welcome Jay Abraham. So Jay is the $21.7 billion man and the highest paid marketing consultant. He's a legendary business leader and the most highly regarded executive to coaches in the world. And Jay has spent his entire career solving complex problems and fixing underperforming businesses. So Jay has significantly increased the bottom lines of over 10,000 clients in more than 1,000 industries and over 7,200 sub-industries around the world. He's dealt with every business scenario, every type of business, and I'm so honored to basically bring some of this thinking, these strategies to help trades, local businesses that don't normally get to hear you. And so we're so excited to welcome you to the Trades Growth Summit, Jay.
No, thank you. And it's actually a delight and a pleasure to be able to contribute. You did an abundantly lavish job of introducing me. Thank you for that. But probably what's important for what we're going to talk about today is that the lessons, the insights, the distinctions, the moves and maneuvers that I have learned over a very long and expansive career can have direct and probably very significant, Francis, implication to smaller trades people in plumbing, electrical, remodeling, whatever the category. All of the elements I'm going to talk about in the next 15, 20, 30 minutes will have direct relevancy if you slow down enough to think about it. And the big problem with most people that I have observed, in the trades is that you're not taught to be an entrepreneur, a businessman or woman. You're taught to, fix pipes or fix wires or fix carpentry or, whatever you're going to do, or bricks or whatever, roofs. You're not taught how to create a business that has advantage to the market. You're not taught how to establish a continuous flow of quality prospects. You're not taught how to qualitatively and effectively convert those prospects to clients. You're not taught how to get referrals. You're not taught how to make irresistible propositions that are easier for people to accept than reject. And today I'm only going to give you the outer periphery of some of the biggest, easiest adjustments or shifts that you can make, no matter how large or small your enterprise, even if you're a one-person trades business. And I can promise that if you reflect deeply on what I'm going to share very quickly, and you endeavor, even in the most modest way, Francis, to alter for the positive what I'm going to share, your business, your income, your market prominence will improve, and you'll be able to keep doing it. One of the things we talked about offline, and I think I should really make this point, many types of business owners, and tradespeople are probably at the top of the pinnacle of what I'm going to say, are not educated or oriented to see the correlation of expert training having an impact on their business success. But ironically, they are indirectly taught, because most of them started as an apprentice and then a journeyman before they got to master level. And that's the very same thing. They had somebody who was an expert teaching them how to become successful using their craft. But I think that if they can also pursue a parallel course and start turning to experts that they qualify, make sure that they are valuable experts, to give them knowledge that will help them build a more successful, a more sustainable, a more satisfying and a more prosperous trade business, they will be outrageously happier over the rest of their career. So that stated, I've just given you the preface. I'm going to introduce today something that I'm known for worldwide, and it's called the 9 drivers of exponential growth. And I got to give you a little background and then I'll get into it. And they're really very simple, but they're very self-evident when they are explained, but they're very infrequently really focused on or addressed by people. And if you start really digging into it, your business will soar. So my life has been dedicated, Francis and everybody, to identifying and pursuing methodology, techniques, methods, strategies, concepts, approaches that produce not linear growth, but explosive, exponential, geometric growth, far outsized to the effort, time, resource allocation, whether it was people or money or whatever. And then I've gone one more level. I've tried to identify principles and concepts that were so forgiving that even if you misexecuted, even if you only partially executed, even if you had a flawed execution, they would work in spite, not because of your perfection. So that's the basis of what we're going to cover now, okay? So I think we have a PowerPoint, and it's very simple, and I'll go through it. So you're going to learn very quickly the 9 drivers of exponential growth. And each one is based on changing what you do, how you do it, why you do it, where you do it, when you do it, and what way you do it. And there's 9 of them. These are what I found to be on the revenue side, on the success side, on the predictable, sustainable future side, the most powerful, the most immediate, the most sustainable things you can do for your, let's call it your trades business. So the first is you change your marketing, you change your results. There are many ways to do it. I'm not going to give you a 3-day course on marketing, but I'll just give you some of the things that you should think about. Change your marketing means, how do you present yourself? What is your positioning against everyone else? What is your proposition, your value proposition against everyone else? Why should people choose you over someone else? How do you target markets? How do you source prospects? How do you either immediately convert them? How do you progressively convert them? One of the most, to me at least, shocking aspects of most trade, particularly smaller and 1 or 2 or 3 person ones, they'll get a lead and they don't even promptly follow up. They'll get a lead and they'll have a call and then they don't follow up. They'll get a lead and they'll have a call and they don't promptly give them a proposal. They'll get a lead and they'll get the deal and they don't really get out there on time. They'll get a job and they don't try to keep going back and get more jobs. They'll get a job and they don't try to get a referral. So there's lots of ways to do it. Today, my job is just to show you that if you have no marketing and your business is based on word of mouth referral, there are 125 ways you could do referral marketing. 125 different ways that you could generate no cost, high value, high conversion, meaning they would convert very highly, referrals from a multitude of different sources. And if you've gotten most of your business simply from word of mouth, and it's very organic, meaning it comes sometimes a lot, sometimes a little, you don't pay for it, but you have no control over it. If you only added 2 or 3 formalized, systematized, referral generating strategies to what you do, it could double, redouble again your business. And if you go, wow, if I did that, I couldn't handle it. Well, guess what? That's what growth-oriented businesses look for, is a way to keep growing in an organized, predictable way where they can start adding team members. So it depends on what you want for your and from your career. If all you want is to be a 1 or 2 person business, then you should still want a marketing mechanism that continually and sustainingly generates the kind of jobs you want, the kind of engagements you want, the size, the profit, the satisfying ones that you want, because you have control over there. Marketing has the potential to represent lots of things. You can run paid ads. You can make arrangements with other people who recommend you, and you can pay them on results. You can do what I call barter exchanges, where you go to media or you go to influencers in your community and you do work for them in exchange for them promoting you to their audience. But if you change your marketing, and again, to most small trades people and some even larger do not a very good or any good marketing, you can change. If you're running ads, you can change what the ad says, and sometimes double, redouble again the quantity and the quality of response. In an ad, depending on where you run it, the headline is the ad for the ad. Change a headline, I've seen as much as a 21 times, 2,100% increase by having a better headline than not. And the headline is also the equivalent of the most powerful element in almost every other form of marketing or selling communication that you engage in. When you send an email, the subject line is the first thing people see. I have seen a change on subject lines, double and redouble the results that email produced. If you are talking to somebody cold the first time on the phone or in person, the first thing you say can have more impact on the outcome of the potential transaction than anything you imagine. I have tested, as an example, 33 different ways of greeting somebody at the front door of a very large furniture company. And one change tripled the amount of people that bought something. One change. So you have a lot of, we call it upside leverage. You have the ability to profoundly and dramatically multiply the result by changing your marketing. You can also change where you market. You can change the message. In marketing, there are many levers that people are never taught. Changing the headline is the first one. Changing the value proposition is the second. What is the proposition you're going to make? That you'll come out, you will only agree to do the job if you think you can do the job better than anyone else. You'll guarantee it for 4 years. If anything goes wrong, you'll come back. The proposition. The next is the proof you can do it. You can do that by testimonials. You can do that by endorsements. You can do that by the kinds of companies that you serve. You can do that by showing the training or the number of jobs or the scope of jobs you've worked in. The next is risk reversal. Every business can find some way to reverse the risk on saying yes. The risk can say, hey, we will guarantee we'll get the job done. It'll be done right. It'll be done in 4 days after we agree to it. It'll be done at or below the estimate. that if there's any problem, it will be taken care of for the next 5 years. You can give a bonus. Bonus can say, plus, if anything else goes wrong for the next, we'll come out and we'll basically assess it for free or whatever. So you change your marketing, you change your results. You change your strategy, you change your results. Most small businesses, and I would assume most small trade businesses, aren't strategic at all. They are tactical. Strategy is the long game you're playing. When you're strategic, everything you do in terms of revenue generation is designed to literally advance and enhance the long-term strategy, the big game that you're playing. If you don't have a big game strategy, you need to change it, because that change alone could multiply your success. Some examples of a strategy change that might be important. If you said that I know that every time I get let's say that you're a plumber, a sink toilet clog, that within the next 12 months, there's an 80% chance that I'm going to get a much bigger repeat job from that client. Well, then you might, depending on your availability of time, want to put a lot of first-time clogs in, even if it doesn't seem like a big business, because it's a lead generator or a progenitor to bigger things. If you say that I want to make sure I get referrals from everyone, then you make referral generation a condition of doing business with you. You will learn to talk about how important telling other people are. You ask them if they get the outcome you promise and have no problem thereafter, if they would be willing to tell other people in homes or condos like that, or offices or buildings, depending on what you're doing. Sorry, 1 second. Let me turn this off. Just a minute there. Sorry. If your strategy has been sort of throw mud on the wall and just try ads intermittently, ads need to be run that are direct response. That means they should be only ads that produce a result within a very short time of when you run them. That should be your strategy. If it doesn't produce a result, there's no such thing as the long-term, over time it'll work. That's BS. If you're running ads, you should be able to get leads or jobs right away. And an ad has to be a profit center. If you spend X, you need to get a multiple of X. Depends on your overhead, depends on your team, depends on the kind of jobs, depends on the profit margin. But you change your strategy, you change your result. If your strategy is that you will perform a total electrical audit of every home or building gratis, and that audit is normally worth $1,000 because you know that 1 out of every 2 is going to have at least a $5,000 genuine problem that needs to be fixed, that's a different strategy. Many years ago, I was probably the first person 30 some years ago that figured out that if you offered a loss leader tune-up for either winterization or summarizing for electrical, for heating and air, HVAC, that statistically 1 out of every 2 had a problem with their system, and you'd get whatever, $500 or $1,000 more on the job without ever having to manipulate because their equipment needed work. By doing that, we exploded the company that I work with, and since almost everybody does that, but sophisticated marketers have measured and quantified that when they do a break even or a losing first stage, either tune-up or assessment, they get a predictable amount on average of very profitable business. So you change your strategy, you change your results. Next is you change your business model and you change your results. Now, there's a little bit of an overlap, but the business model is what is the way your business is designed to make money? Is it designed to make money by having many repeat transactions to a market? Is it designed to make money by only finding larger, more profitable transactions? Is it making money by making a margin on sourcing prospects, but feeding it to independent tradespeople who will do the work? Is its model that you will partner with other complementary type tradespeople that when they get a job, there's a natural automatic job in that same engagement for your type of a trade? Most people don't think about what their business model is. So they do a little of this and a little of that. It's episodic. It's intermittent. It's very, very unpredictable. The people that grow and prosper in any business, large or small, trade, professional, doctor, dentist, carpenter, electrician, know their marketing, they know their strategy, they know their business model, and they follow it. And if it doesn't deliver the results they want, they adjust, they alter, they replace. And if you don't do that, you are destined to a life in your business, in your work, in your craft, in your trade of erratic, episodic, and feast famine. And it's not a way to run a life. It's not a way to run your stress level. It's not a way to run your income. It's not a way to build an asset. When you're in a business, you should always think, okay, if I'm a one man or a small organization, am I building anything of value? Because the same effort, same time, same commitment could be building a reputation for your brand in a way that that brand has value. As you grow it, someone else would be willing to buy it, even if it's based on your name, but the kind of work you and your team do. You could be building something that doesn't just make you an income when you work, but the brand is so strong that you could sell it or sell part of it to somebody for quite a lot more than it's paying you, because you've built that asset value in your market. The fourth one, you change your capital usage, you change your results. That can mean a lot of things. It can mean paying people later and getting your revenue in now. It can mean working out deals, particularly with sources of business, advertising, influencers, where you pay them on the results that occur so you don't pay anything up front. It can mean trading, exchanging, bartering your services for things that you would either buy or that you want and would never be able to afford, or that you can acquire and then sell for cash at a discount. This works very well if you have excess capacity. Let's say, for example, that you have 80% of your time is being used right now for paying business, but 20 isn't. Let's say that you can be carpentry, you can be plumbing, you can be whatever. Let's say that your markups are, I don't know what they would be. I'm going to be lavish 3 times, meaning that when you spend effort, it costs you X, but you are able to price it at 3X. Let's say you wanted advertising, but you don't have any advertising money. Let's say you went to somebody that owned a local radio station, penny saver, sign company, doesn't matter, sign on the side of their wall. And you could go to them and say, look, I will give you $3,000 worth of plumbing credit or carpentry credit or electrical credit that you can use yourself or you can assign to somebody else for $3,000 of advertising credit I can use for you. And then you do one more. You say, and I want mine now, but you can have up to 2 years to use my credit. When you do that, you get the benefit of advertising today. And and you get to do the work later. And it has somebody a little more sophisticated. This goes to the time value of money. $3,000 today is going to be worth more than $3,000 2 years from today. So if somebody doesn't use your side of it and ask you to do the work for 2 years, what you would charge $3,000 for today is going to be less work than you would charge in 2 years. You can trade people for things that you can't justify. I've seen tradespeople trade car dealers for either a car or the use of a car for 2 or 3 years. And they would do work at the dealership in exchange for the use of the car. I've seen tradespeople trade their services for items they could sell for cash and they still made out. Let's say, again, my example is that you get 3 times markup on what it costs you. Let's say you have unused capacity yourself or people. If you could, in my example, trade your time for a big screen TV you couldn't afford, or you could trade it for that big screen TV that was worth $3,000 and you sold it immediately to somebody for $1,500, which was a savings over what they could buy it for, but you're still getting $1,500 for something that you would sell for $2,000, but you're not selling because you have unsold time, and you're still making in a cash basis, 2 times your cost. It's pretty good. So there's lots of ways to change how you use your capital or your capital equivalent. When you do that, you change your results. Number 5, change your relationships, how you utilize relationships. This means you identify people who have influence with the people that represent, or the market that represents, your biggest source of future income. And it may be a higher level than you're getting right now. And you work out strategic alliances, or you work out partnerships, or you work out presenting, where you package yours with them, or you work out exchanges, or you become the recommended provider to an organization or a community or a condo building. And by doing that, you lock in a preemptive and a protected level of future business. So you ask, who's already got access to the audience I want? And if they put the full force of their credibility and the corresponding trust that people had for them in my behalf, and they recommended me, they promoted me, they endorsed me, I became the provider of choice and that they have recommended, and I did that 10 times or 15 times in my community, what would it do for me? Next slide. You change your distribution channels and markets. So distribution channel means how you distribute your product or service if you're selling it, but it means also how you're distributing your marketing message. So there's a lot of things that are not typical advertising that you can do. You might find somebody that sells something totally different, but their audience are homeowners or office or building managers or developers or people that own expensive cars or jewelry. And if you get them, whenever they send an email, to send a unique email to their audience, and it says, this is totally unrelated to jewelry or cars, but a lot of my clients or my customers, I don't like to call them customers, I like clients, or my patients, tell me they are frustrated trying to find competent and capable and trustworthy and qualitative craftsmen or tradesmen. And I have one that I have really been impressed with. And they do what they say, they over deliver, they're very, very value based on their pricing. You don't need to ever call them back, because when they do the job, they do it right and it's done. And I recommend them. And I think anytime you need anybody doing whatever, plumbing or electrical or carpentry or brick or whatever, or hardscaping or landscaping or whatever you're doing, I recommend and I suggest you keep this email for reference. If you did that 10, 15 places, what do you think would happen? So how you distribute your message and where else you could do it is going to determine whether you make a living, whether your income is mediocre, or whether you make hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars more over the course of your trade career. Now, that also presupposes that you have a vision of where you want your business to take you. Because if you don't, you'll never get there. There's a very tragic statement that I heard a couple of years ago. 95% of all small businesses never reach their goals. And there's a reason. They really don't have concrete, finite goals that they very carefully formulated, that they have reverse engineered, that they have identified how and who is going to help them achieve it, and that they monitor, measure, and adjust. They have very abstract hopes and dreams. I want to make $200,000 this year instead of 150. I want to get bigger jobs than now. I want to be able to someday have two additional carpenters or plumbers. I mean, that's not going to get you the goal. If it does, it's going to take longer and be much sloppier. The more you know where you're trying to get to, the more you know how to get there, the more you reverse engineer, the more success you're going to have. And it's probably no different than how you apply your trade. You figure out what the job is going to take, and then you reverse engineer what you have to do first, second, third. And you think about it, and it's designed very methodically, probably almost scientifically. At least it's very, very logical. Well, growing a business is very logical as well. The next is you change your products or services. If you have one basic service, or it's very macro, and they just say, hey, I'm a plumber. And that presupposes that the market has to figure out what you do for them and all the different ways you could do it. Whereas if you promoted, hey, when you have a drain problem, I will come out the first time and do it for half price because I want a relationship, that's different. Or if you say, if you have a leak in your pipes, I will come out and I will not charge you to find it. And I will give you every way you can cost effectively fix it. And if you don't want to do it with me, at least I will save you the money you would spend with somebody else trying to identify it. If you do it with me, I promise it'll be done right and priced very fairly. If you identify the different services you can do, that's really cool. Another way to interpret this concept of changing products or services is that, I don't, can you, Francis, can you see me at all?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm using this as the life cycle of your relationship with a client. If they start when there's a crisis and you stop after that and you never have a sequential, continuous communication, then you're losing the opportunity to contribute and also to profit from them over time. It is very fascinating to me that craft people and trade people will respond to a phone call request, and some of them come out in a timely way, some of them don't. When they do the job, it's a transaction. They're done. They don't try to continue the relationship so that it will keep prospering, propagating, and blooming over and over again. They don't seem to think statistically the probability is if I have a stopped up toilet today and this is 2021, I'll never have another one in 2022 or 2023 or 2021 again, or I'll never have any other plumbing problem all my life. Or if I do, if I'm a plumber, I'm arrogant and ignorant enough to think I'm just going to get called by that person. That person won't maybe forget who I was. I may not get that call. Why would you not, once you've invested the opportunity cost and the performance, want to keep aware of everybody? But one of the ways to start more relationships is have a more entry level product or service you can do that's easy for people to start a relationship and literally get familiar with you and trust you and have you in their home and watch how you do it, or in their building. The other is to add other services or products to what you do. I have a client, as an example, that sells solar. They go to electricians, they go to roofers, and they get prospective leads, and they pay the roofers or the electricians thousands of dollars in exchange for the leads that convert, because they're worth $10,000 or $15,000 to my client. So if you change the products or services, you change your results. Next category, Brian, back to the slides. So the next is very important. Change your ideology. This is your belief system. And that's very simply, I'm sharing with you a different way of thinking about business, that you are a business. You're not just a lifestyle, erratic person who has spent a lot of time becoming masterful at electric or plumbing or heating and air conditioning or brickwork or stone masonry. Your business. And as a business, you want to be a marketer. You want to be strategic. You want to have a long-term game plan. You want to know what your business model is. You want to know all the ways you can continually and predictably source business, because if you know with certainty that you can keep sourcing business and adding more and more business demand, then you can systematically grow the business with other people doing more and more of the heavy lifting. But if you don't believe everything I'm talking about is possible, you won't do it. So ideology is your belief system. If you change your belief system, you change your results. The next one is you change your processes, procedures, and systems. This is quite profound. The way you do things, how you do things, why you do things, systems, procedures will change the results you get. Now, you follow systems and procedures when you are doing the work, and it's probably the discipline that you learned as an apprentice and then a journeyman or woman and then a master. But there are systems that you should be using to acquire, convert, resell, and sustain a relationship with a client. There are systems you should be using to keep making sure you don't lose opportunity, meaning you get a lead, that it is followed up in a timely way. If somebody calls you, that call is promptly returned. And if you can't do it, the system says you bring in somebody outside to do it, a service, a part-time. There are systems that get you more utility or more productivity for your time. There are systems that say you don't do low yielding things. You bring other people in to free you up for the higher rewarding activities. That being an island and doing everything yourself may seem cost effective, but it's the costliest thing because it's losing you opportunity. If you look at how you spend a day and you break it into parts, the odds are you are underutilizing 30, 40, 50%. If your time is worth X dollars an hour, you should never be doing activities that are worth a fraction of that. But most small single or small 2, 3, 4 person businesses do. I think that's it. Is there one more or is that it? Did we do 9?
Yep.
Okay, well, I've just given you a segment of my methodology. I've given you a pretty compressed but expansive way of thinking differently. I have challenged you to look at the rest of your career in your trade and decide whether you want to be a real business or whether you just want to be an episodic, erratic person that sometimes you flourish, sometimes you don't. And this particularly comes into play in the off months. And off months differ. I mean, if you're in HVAC, winter's good. If you're in HVAC, or if you're not in HVAC, sometimes winter's bad. But you can compensate. You can use these methods to make the slow months busy and the busy months even so much more busy that you can bring people in. And if you have not the ability to hire good people, that's another opportunity. How can you reward people? How can you get people to want to work for you instead of somebody else? And there's many ways to do it, by the way. There's incremental profit allocation. If you say, okay, I can only do X amount, but I could get 3 times that if I had the people. And then if you go, wow, the market for a plumber is X, $25 an hour, but I'm charging 100, meaning I'm actually making $75 an hour, but I've got 2/3 of the business I can't do because I can't hire people. And if everyone else is paying 25, maybe you give a reward for people. If you paid them 40 and the market's 25, but you're still making 60, but a lot of people have a rigid mindset where they don't look at incremental value. That's probably enough for today. So, Francis, you want to ask me any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Jay. Yeah, I'm off mute. Thank you, Jay. I really appreciate you sharing those 9 drivers with us. And I'm particularly interested in the application of these drivers and this thinking, when it comes to trades businesses. A lot of our clients in the industry, they feel like they're a commodity, right? And a lot of them are not really thinking in terms of developing a longer term relationship with a client, right? And they're frequently selling to 3% who are ready to buy now, the Chet Holmes triangle, and they're not necessarily thinking of themselves as the the sage, the trusted advisor that you speak about. How can a trades business, a home service business, a plumber, an electrician, how can they start thinking about their product or their service in a way that has a longer shelf life, right?
Well, I think they have to, and this is going to get into something that maybe at another time I can talk about to you, because it's a longer discussion than the 3 or 4 minutes I have left today. But there is a concept that I've created called the strategy of preeminence. It's about seeing your role in your business world as being the only viable choice somebody could make, the most trusted advisor they could turn to for life and living and personifying and really executing on being the most trusted advisor. There's a lot of elements, but to me, the most tragic and really heartbreaking thing that can happen in a life and business is to allow yourself to be a commodity, because it's unnecessary. Anybody who is good at what they do can elevate their stature in their market or community, field, or world to be preeminent. But it takes about 2 hours to explain. But if you'd like some future time, I will come back and I will share with you, to your audience, a lesson, a compression lesson on how to do it. But it will take longer, and I've got to leave really soon. But hopefully the 9 drivers gives a lot of pause for reflection to trade people who aren't really thinking that way. And if it does, I would hope you don't have to do all 9, although you should over time. But my recommendation is always take the one first that's the easiest to start with, then the second, and then keep iterating, because where you're at today should not be where you're going to be at a year from today or 2 years. And if you're content to just eke out an erratic and a reactive living, and you're worth your salt, you're really good, it's shameful.
Thank you, Jay. I really appreciate your time. I do have a whole lot of other questions, but I think we're sort of running out of time for that.
We are, unfortunately, but maybe we'll do it again at another time.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, I wish everybody who is watching that these perspectives sink in, and you look at how you have been historically doing things versus how you can start doing things, and you change. Because when you change what you're doing, how you're doing, where you're doing, why you're doing, the reason you're doing it, you change the results. And if you change them 2, 3, 5 years from today, everybody who's watching who does that will look back and they'll have far more success, far more predictability, far more prosperity, far more control, and they'll be much bigger than they are now in the most fulfilling and rewarding ways. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.